You don't choose your own name. You don't decide what you eat, what you wear, where you sleep, who you marry, whether you get to see your children, even how you live your own life. Someone else decides. Because to them, you are not a person. You are property. You can be bought, sold, rented out, separated from your family. And through all of it, you are expected to keep breathing. Harriet Tubman was born into that world. Harriet was just 13 years old when a man who was enslaved tried to escape. An overseer threw a nearly 5-pound iron weight at him. He missed. It struck Harriet in the head. Her skull was badly injured. There was no doctor, no hospital, no one coming to save her. People didn't expect Harriet to survive, but she did. And the effects of that injury followed her for the rest of her life. Fainting spells, severe headaches, uncontrollable sleeping episodes. Harriet Tubman was born enslaved in Maryland around 1822. As a child, she was separated from her family and forced to work for other households. Her 3 sisters were eventually sold. They were sent south, and their family never knew if they would see them again. Think about that. A child is taken away from her mother. Her sister is sold, taken somewhere else, and there is nothing she can do, because the law does not protect her. Enslaved people were treated as property. They could be sold. They could be rented out, and families could be torn apart. Harriet learned that she could be sold too. She knew she could wake up one morning and never see the people she loved again. And then, she made her decision. Harriet's enslaver, Edward Brodess, died. Harriet feared that she and her siblings would be sold, so she made her choice. She would escape. Her first attempt was with 2 of her brothers, but they wanted to turn back. Harriet was forced to return with them. Then she tried again, this time alone. She walked at night, hid during the day, crossed forests and swamps. Slave catchers were looking for her. If she was caught, she could be beaten, sold, or punished even more severely. But she kept going. Eventually, she reached Pennsylvania. She was free. She was 27 years old. For the first time in her life, no one owned her. Harriet was free, but her family was still in Maryland. Her friends were still enslaved, and Harriet knew exactly what could happen to them. So she went back. She had escaped north. Now she was going south again, into slave territory, into the territory of slave catchers, risking her own freedom. And she did it again and again. Through the Underground Railroad, Harriet returned to Maryland, repeatedly helping family members and other enslaved people escape. Later accounts credit her with helping around 70 people reach freedom. Once, she had been running for her own life. Now, she was bringing other people out. Harriet was no longer just a runaway. She had become a serious threat to the system that kept people enslaved. She organized people, used secret routes, traveled at night, and led them toward freedom. But one of the greatest dangers was panic. If one person turned back, if one person was captured, if one person talked, everyone could be found. Harriet carried a pistol. If someone in her group wanted to turn back, she was determined not to let them, because Harriet knew what waited for them if they were captured and returned to slavery. For her, there were only 2 choices: freedom or death. Turning back meant surrendering to slavery again, and Harriet would not allow that. The American Civil War began. Harriet began working with Union forces. She served as a nurse, a cook, and a spy. She gathered information, traveled through dangerous territory, worked with people who could provide intelligence, and used the knowledge she had gained from years of moving through the South. The skills that once helped her escape now helped her during the war. June 1st, 1863, the Combahee River, South Carolina. Harriet Tubman, helped with a Union military operation in the area. As Union gunboats moved along the river, enslaved people began fleeing from nearby plantations. Men, women, children. People who had spent their entire lives being told they belonged to someone else were running toward freedom. Some ran to the boats. Some swam. Some carried their children. And for hundreds of people, everything changed that day. More than 750 people were freed. And at the center of that operation was a woman who had once been considered property, Harriet Tubman. Now ask yourself, what did America give this woman in return? Harriet had served during the war. She had worked as a nurse, a spy, and had helped people escape slavery. But when the war ended, everything did not suddenly become fair. Harriet spent years fighting for the pension she had earned. Years passed before she received proper recognition for her military service. Think about that. She had served her country, yet she still had to fight to make her country acknowledge what it owed her. Harriet was getting older, but she didn't stop. Slavery had been abolished, but inequality had not disappeared. Black Americans were still fighting for their rights, and women were still fighting for the right to vote. Harriet joined that fight too. For the rest of her life, she continued working for Black Americans' rights and for women's suffrage. Think about the journey. At 13, she nearly died. At 27, she escaped to freedom. Then she risked that freedom to go back. She became a spy during the Civil War. She helped more than 750 people gain their freedom. And even in old age, she was still fighting. Because for Harriet, freedom was never just about herself. Throughout Harriet's life, someone was always trying to control her. Her enslavers claimed they owned her. They forced her to work, separated her from her family, sold her sisters, nearly killed her. And when she escaped, they tried to stop her. But Harriet kept moving. She kept going back. She kept taking risks. And eventually, she became part of the fight against the very system that had once claimed to own her. A woman once legally considered property was now working alongside Union forces during military operations. Harriet Tubman's story is not just the story of a woman who escaped slavery. It is the story of how far a system can go to take away a person's humanity, and how far one person can go to take it back. Harriet Tubman died in 1913, but what she left behind was far greater than a grave. Once, other people controlled her life. Then, she took control of it herself. Once, she was a little girl who could not save her family. Then, she helped carry other families toward freedom. Once, she was a runaway slave. Then, she became one of the most important figures in the fight against slavery. Once, she was the 13-year-old girl who was struck in the head by an iron weight. And in the end, she became a symbol of freedom. They thought they could decide who she would become. They thought they could own her life. They thought they could control her future. They were wrong, because in the end, Harriet Tubman decided who she would be.